Greedfall 2 is an RPG, and not exactly a sequel to the first one, but more of a parallel story. It is set in the same world, but you are playing as a different character, and the game starts about 3 years before the events of the first game. But by the end, it pretty much catches up to the same timeline. In the first game, you played as a colonist, going to a new world. This time you're playing as a native of the island of Tier 3D. The setting is inspired by 17th century European history, but it's got fantasy elements like magic and monsters. It is worth mentioning that it is now confirmed that there will be character customization for early access. In this game, you will be dealing with people from other nations coming to settle on your island, which obviously causes some tension between the cultures. The game has some new mechanics like talents you can develop for things like investigating or disarming traps. They have also expanded on the quest system that should give us more ways to solve problems. Basically, they are really emphasizing that your choices have consequences, both immediate and long-term. One big change is how combat works. In the first game, you only controlled your character, while your companions were handled by AI, and that artificial intelligence wasn't particularly impressive at times, so they switched this up in Greedfall 2 for a real-time with pause system. Now, there are certainly players who look forward to this change, and some very clearly are not. This is in the end very subjective, depending on your preferences. You can control your entire party in combat, kind of like games such as Dragon Age Origins. So while it is not completely turn-based like Baldur's Gate 3, for example, you can use a tactical pause to give orders and move your companions around. Outside of combat, your companions play an important role as well. They are connected to different factions and can therefore help you in various ways, like assisting you in dialogue. You will have access to new skill points with each level you gain, and can spend these on different skill trees. These are built around certain playstyles. Now, I think it is obvious from the footage. Yes, the game clearly needs more polishing, which is what early access is all about. That is true, but I think there are two concerns here that go hand in hand, that, in my opinion, will cause a sizable amount of players to not buy this in its early access stages. And that is likely the price, which is set at $40 US. Of course, if this was a full release, then that is a price we can certainly talk about. But when you think about that only around 30% of the game is included with the early access release, basically offering the beginning of the main quest, then I can completely understand when a good chunk of players, especially players that haven't played the first game and don't really care much about supporting a studio they have no experience with. Yes, I would understand when these people are thinking, well, I might as well wait until the game is actually out and just buy the couple months after that, when it's finished and polished, and perhaps even on sale. Baldur's Gate 3 was fully priced in its early access stages, but that game offered hundreds of hours of content with pretty much outstanding replayability, even in its early access form. So I guess it really comes down to if you see a future in this game long term and want to support the developers on this journey. And that sentence concludes today's video. If your time was respected, a like or comment is very much appreciated.